Foreign policy observers sometimes call into question the value of alliances. They contend that these countries are taking advantage of American defense spending without giving back equal value. However, alliances provide immense material value to the United States, even if they are sometimes difficult to quantify in dollars. Consequently, aggressive demands by the United States that allies pay more for U.S. military presence could prove more damaging to the United States. South Korea is a case in point of an ally who delivers immense value to the U.S. government. Though the actual lift of benefits is far more expansive, we will explore three areas in this video. First, the prevention of armed conflict on the Korean Peninsula. Second, foreign policy convergence on the Korean Peninsula. And third, the promotion of shared values on the Korean Peninsula. Helping South Korea maintain deterrence against an invasion from North Korea is in the best interest of the United States. War could return to the Korean Peninsula in numerous ways. While some people might think that the economic cost of this hypothetical war would be borne entirely by South Korea if the United States does not participate, this is not true. Because South Korea is such a large, globally integrated economy, the indirect cost to the United States from such a conflict on the peninsula would be immense. The Economist Intelligence Unit estimated that a war on the Korean Peninsula in 2017 would have cost the U.S. economy about $330 billion in just 1 year. Just looking at that war's potential impact on U.S. agricultural and auto production, the report suggested that over 20,000 agricultural jobs and 25,000 auto sector jobs would have been lost in the first year of the war. In addition, South Korea's semiconductor industry has the second most production capacity in the world, approximately a fifth of the world's output. Any disruption to South Korean semiconductor supply chains in the course of the war could have major downstream implications for the U.S. economy, particularly the technology sector. These indirect costs to the U.S. economy, along with the direct military costs, the return of a full-scale war on the Korean Peninsula could easily cost the U.S. $2 trillion, though the final amount would be much higher. In addition to helping South Korea prevent war on the Korean Peninsula, the alliance helps the U.S. advance other foreign policy interests. First, South Korea helps Washington gain leverage over Pyongyang in discussions around North Korea's proliferation activities. Notably, North Korea's neighbors that are not allies with the United States not only facilitate Pyongyang's smuggling activities, but also increasingly work to push back against Washington's diplomatic efforts. South Korea, on the other hand, generally aligns its diplomatic engagements with North Korea with foreign policy interests of the United States. For instance, in September 2018, President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un discussed potentially reopening the joint industrial complex in Kaesong that South Korea had closed in 2016 to help US-led pressure against the North. In its last year of the operation, Seoul is estimated to have paid $120 million to Pyongyang for the North Korean laborers working for South Korean companies. This offer was an inducement for Pyongyang to follow a path more acceptable to Washington. Similarly, South Korea has taken on economic damage in order to advance US interests in the region. For instance, Seoul committed to installing US anti-ballistic missile defense batteries in South Korea. Beijing perceived this missile battery to be directed at China and pressured South Korea to remove the installation by engaging in reprisals against Korean businesses, including automakers in China and cultural exports. South Korean companies likely took on $25 billion in losses, but still maintained US missile batteries. As an active contributor to regional economic development, South Korea has been advancing the U.S. foreign policy objective of upholding rules-based commercial engagement in the Indo-Pacific. Between 1988 and 2019, Seoul has directed $7.2 billion in official development assistance to its emerging economy neighbors in the region. During the same period, South Korea's private investment to developing countries was 6 to 8 times larger than its official development assistance. At ASEAN-Korea summits in recent years, President Moon Jae-in has underscored the need for the region to work together to support global peace, security, prosperity, and sustainable development, all things supported by the U.S. government. At a time when Beijing is expanding its influence in the region by offering cheap loans, South Korea is advancing U.S. interests through its own overseas assistance and commercial engagement without needing to draw from American coffers. South Korea's title as the linchpin of U.S.-backed security architecture in Asia is not an empty one. As we have seen, the alliance with South Korea provides the U.S. with many benefits. And placing too much emphasis on how much the US immediately spends on troop presence in South Korea is self-defeating, as it risks weakening the alliance that offers far greater savings in return.